the glory of restoration. Let us be sanctified vessels. This subtle truth is so elusive, it slips like water through my clumsy-hearted fingers. Let us remember we are fashioned from the miraculous. We convene in the star-strewn field of possibility, in magnificent communion with you, guided by consecrated constellations, virgin soil beneath our bare feet, night blind and moon drunk. Hopeful in our brokenness, we relinquish the dangerous safety of cleverness. Rebuild us fearless in our willingness to know we know nothing. We can be brand new. Let us be love. Open our fists, turn our palms skyward to receive. We shake off the label of soldier, disengage from the non-stop onslaught of battles we can't even understand. Love struck, we will fight the good fight. Warrior shamans of light in our own right. Bless I, me, us, we with resilience. Fortify our hearts against opposition. We teeter on the brink of dazzling emergence. Allow us to free fall into the river of brilliance, flowing unendingly from the depths of divinity into Eden, into the garden of matter, into the field of possibility. Reinstate beatific order from chaos as we listen to King Solomon. Look to the ant, consider her ways, and be wise. Ponder the wondrous waggle dance of bumblebees, the impossibly synchronous star waltz of fireflies. Reveal our true nature. We are all divine emanations. Each of us a blessed letter emblazoned in sacred text. Made ready, we will shine. One beautiful moonbeam at a time, until the world is bathed in radiant splendor. Give us the ears to hear the celestial
Hello and greetings. I'm Diana Wyan, the Artistic Director at Temple Israel of Hollywood, and it is with great joy that I welcome you to today's TIOH Arts and Culture at Home event featuring poet and Kohenet Rachel Kann. This ongoing series of online performances and conversations evolved out of our core belief that culture is illuminated, shared, and advanced through the arts, and our deep desire to continue gathering during this pandemic. Before I introduce Rachel, I would like to take this moment and acknowledge and recognize that our temple, Temple Israel of Hollywood, is situated on the traditional and unceded lands of the Chumash, Tongva, and Kizh peoples, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations and continue to do so. Now, it is with great joy that I welcome today's artist, award-winning devotional poet and ceremonialist, Rachel Kann. She was the 2020 New England Jewish Poetry Festival's featured poet and a 2020 Cosmic Sister Women of the Psychedelic Renaissance awardee for her poetry presentation at the 2020 Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. So her spoken word album, this visual album, is called The Quickening, and it's received accolades from film festivals in Florence, in Tel Aviv, Los Angeles, and New York. She's performed poetry in venues such as the Walt Disney Concert Hall, Royce Hall, the Broad Stage, the San Francisco Palace of Fine Arts, and today she is performing from her home to yours. Rachel, welcome.
Hello, shalom, Diana. I'm so happy to be with you, and thank you for that very gracious introduction.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your words with us. So you, inspired by Pesach, inspired by Passover, the upcoming Jewish holiday, which commemorates the liberation of the Israelites from Egyptian slavery, you put together a set of 4 poems to share with us, which invite us to step into the sea with you. Can you share a bit about why you chose to begin with this particular poem?
Yes, well, so we are going to start with a poem from my most recent poetry collection, How to Bless the New Moon, The Priestess Path Cycle, and Other Poems for Queens. And so we're starting with a poem called Neviah, which means prophetess, which was written to give love to all the prophetesses, but particularly Miriam, the prophetess. And because she was such a visionary, because she banged her drum in public, back as Lane Redmond says, when the drummers were women, because she revived the circle dance and the beating of the drum as a way to expand consciousness. And she prayed and sang to the infinite, the source, God, whatever word works for you. We all have a lot of religious trauma in our life. So the one, beloved, most high, Hashem, Shekhinah, the little difference there, Havaya, whoever that person is for you, that entity is for you, the creator. She chose to sing out, not just in future tense, like we hope these things will happen, but in present tense. These things are happening. So teaching us about manifesting, believing, emunah, faith, bitachon, knowing. And since it's right at the beginning of the Exodus story, which is what Passover is celebrating, I thought it was right at the journey. I thought it would be fun to sing her into the space, as it were, with words. So with that, I present to you Neviah, prophetess. Don't misunderstand history's dismissal to be a legitimate reflection of your alleged invalidity. This suppression is systemic, intended to implant you with self-doubt and worse. Tell them you've come to get your drum back. They've rehearsed this for centuries. They shamed you for your revelations as a child, been training you to doubt your intuition since the beginning. It's a matter of tuning into the right frequency, cleaning your receiver, respecting the sensitivity of your equipment. Tell them you've come to get your drum back. It's a matter of the gratitude that knocks you to your knees, the bravery that looks demons in the mirror, in the face, the real sacrifice, the blood and guts kind. Every destiny exacts its own heavy price until you are nothing but dying. It's a matter of acknowledging the well, sprung up and wandering with you through the wilderness, like a faithful familiar, mandrake and fennel flower issuing forth from the earth in a ground halo around it. It's a matter of quieting, of listening to everything until you are still enough to let the jasmine bush croon its swoon perfume all over you. It's a matter of knowing you don't deserve it. Could you have been made any other way? Creature that you are, have you not prayed and prayed to be made vessel? Then be not surprised, but still amazed when fluid revelations channel through you, are granted safe passage. You remember. It is a warm rush, whisper itch of a kiss that has to be scratched or kissed back, just between your ear and jaw, until everything in you becomes the longing to part your own lips, your own sea of reeds. And when your heart explodes into 1,000,000 phantom dancer spirits, you let the prophecy pour out. You tell them you've come to get your drum back.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great beginning. You mentioned that this poem comes from your collection, How to Bless the New Moon. James is going to throw up the cover. It's such a gorgeous illustration. And I know you're going to share another poem from this cycle coming next, but can you tell us a bit about the collection and how you became inspired to explore the priestess paths and these, 13 archetypes?
Yes, it would be my pleasure. And first, just since you mentioned the gorgeous illustration, I also think it's gorgeous. You should really get the book, if only for this. The illustration wraps all the way around the cover to the back. And it was actually done live at one of my new moon unions, which is a new moon circle, Rosh Chodesh circle, but it's gender irrespective. It's for all people who identify anywhere on the gender spectrum. Often Rosh Chodesh circles are a women-only thing. Mm-hmm. This is for all people. And this illustration was done live at a New Moon Union in Brooklyn by the incredible artist Jessica Tamar Deutsch. So I just had to give her a shout out because I am such a fan of her work. And so when I decided to undertake the matriculation of the Kohenet Hebrew Priestess Institute, part of what I learned and what their foundational sort of wheel, because it's not linear, it's circular, right, is built upon, is the idea of these 13 priestess archetypes. And this is one of the earliest illustrations of these archetypes done by a Kohenet who is no longer with us in the living world, but watching over us from heaven, Kohenet Yosefa Raphaela. Zetzal, may she forever be for a blessing, her memory and her continuous givings into this world. So grateful to have this art from her. So the creators of Kohenet, Rabbi Jill Hammer, PhD, and Rab Kohenet Te'ema, decided so we have traditionally of the female archetypes, Maiden, Mother, and Crone. And it just felt a little, well, to me anyway, I don't want to put words in their mouth, feels a little restrictive.
Yeah.
So now we've expanded from 3 to 13, and we have the Prophetess Archetype, which I just read the poem from. So to answer your question, at some point, I think it was at about my 3rd semester in, I just was overtaken by the idea that so many Kohanot have been inspired to create art, not just me. There's a lot of amazing art inspired by these pathways, but I felt, I really want to write a poem for each of these archetypes. And so that's sort of the crowning, the center point, the opening point of the book. And then it opens out into, like it says, many other poems for queens being everybody of any gender who is fabulous, which is all of us.
Yes.
So, but I was really inspired to see, it wasn't even, I love a structure. I love imposing a structure, but it sort of just came over me and they came one by one. I didn't plan which poem I would write next. And then I just was off to the races. I started actually with Doreshet, which means the seeker, because I feel like I'm often a seeker. And then I just sort of, whichever one naturally was like, hey, do a poem for me now. I kind of let that guide me.
I love that. I love that you followed your curiosity. I know
Thank you.
the next one you've got prepared for us is for the archetype of the maiden. Can you share a bit
Yes.
more about that?
Yeah, so I chose, I'm so happy that we got to discuss what it all means that these poems are written for the archetypes. So Na'ara, the maiden, you notice there's 13 archetypes, and in the Hebrew calendar, which is a lunar calendar, there's also astrology. And so each month has its own archetype. So we're in the month of Nisan, the month of Pesach, and so the archetype assigned to the month of Nisan is Na'ara, the maiden. So that's why we get to talk about her today. So here she is, Na'ara, the maiden. She who is fearless, who walks out of the wilderness feral-shouldered and unbroken, who is the luscious and undulating ocean into which all tributaries flow, who brazen blooms firm-petaled like ruby plumeria, who is immune, shielded by the perfumed force field, lure of purring jasmine, tempt of vespertine brugmansia, who is a downright rhinestone constellation in a black velvet jungle sky, a millefleur satin pink pocketed concealment, who has forget-me-nots darned into the lining of her garments by the celestial seamstress herself, who is the very mystery we are discussing, and the veil, the leap, and the faith, who dances rather than collapses when words fail her, who is teeming with angels, awaiting her every invocation, if ever she might make one, who has a standing invitation to climb into the lap of the infinite, enumerate her wishes like grains of sand, like stars, like dark matter, like the embodied waking dream state of actual creation, who is the round and unending melody, the bottomless font, who is sovereign, who is daughter, and who among us is unbegotten? Not one. Not one of us is not thus loved, like a righteous sunrise into existence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Whew, just going to let that one hang in the air for a moment. This is so powerful. So many beautiful images for me when you said, who dances rather than collapses when words fail her? Because sometimes the words don't come. I love that. You mentioned, you talked about being a Kohenet. And I wonder if you could share a bit about what is a Kohenet for our audience out there, because the term was new to me when you shared it with me. I mean, I now understand it's a Hebrew priestess, but I think you can give us a little bit more,
Sure.
a little bit more depth to that, and what drew you to becoming one. Mm-hmm.
So just like in Hebrew, Kohen is a priest. So this is just the feminized version of that word. But as I was speaking about, when it comes to gender, and I'm very proud to say that Kohenet reflects this to a beautiful degree. Basically, people who feel called to be a priestess, it's not like some sort of, turf type situation. There's people in many places on the gender spectrum who arrived at that place in terms of self-identity from many different starting points, who are either ordained as Kohanot or are working towards ordination. So, but that's what the word technically is. It's the feminized word. The feminine, I don't want to say feminized, the feminine version of Kohen is Kohenet. And so, as I was saying before, Rabbi Jill Hammer, PhD, and Rav Kohenet Teya Mashir, they met, as the story goes. It sort of reminds me, if anyone knows the story of the creators of Hedwig and the Angry Imps, like when they met, they were on a flight together and they met, and by the time the flight was landed, they were like, we're doing this, this is the piece we're doing. And so it was a similar thing happened in that they met and they came from sort of different backgrounds, even though they were both Jewish. Rabbi Jill Hammer, PhD, coming more from an academic world, being the Mashpiach Ruchanit in a rabbinic school in New York, and Te'ema also leading services and doing life spiral experiences for people, but maybe coming from a more like sort of Burning Man, inclusive of multiple lineages, but both, it's a Venn diagram, both of them open to these things, but, again, holding two different corners of the tent down. And when they met, they just had this strong impulse that they would create this program, that this was what they were going to do. And so I'm from cohort Chet. It goes by the alphabet. So Aleph was the first cohort, which Kohenet Yosef Rafaela, who designed that wheel, was from the first cohort. And now there's Kohenet West in addition to Kohenet East. And as we've been in this pandemic times, it's been a very interesting unfolding because, like, for example, my ordination was on Zoom, just like this now, because we finished during the pandemic. And so I mention all that to say that, there's so many sort of, to quote Darren Weissman, gifts in strange wrapping paper that come from this time. Mm-hmm. Now there's Kohenet services every week. There's Shabbat services every week, Kabbalat Shabbat and morning services. And so I've been more able to be involved in co-creating like Kohenet ceremonial experiences in addition to my Realized Paradise services because of this thing that's going on, because normally they'd be happening maybe once a month, mostly on the East Coast. And so basically what it is using these 13 archetypes, they've structured a training program where you move through the archetypes during the intensives in the time you're together. So we might be going into a deep dive on the weaver, Origet, and being like, what does it mean to be a weaver? What does that mean in community? The seeker, Doreshet, all the different aim, the mother, the queen, the Maladet, the midwife, Mekonanet, the morning woman. I just love saying them because I love all of these archetypes so much. So really using them as sort of a grounding foundational structure and letting the learning come from lifting up the women from our tradition, both from the Torah and surrounding texts, midrashic texts, Talmudic texts, to sort of let them have a larger voice, and using that to design what it will mean to be a priestess in the world, which manifests in many ways. I'm sort of, if you were going to put me in the category of what rabbis do, which I'm definitely not a rabbi, too much respect for rabbis to even compare it, but I'm more of like a pulpit rabbi type Kohenet, but there's artisanal crafts person, Kohanot. There's people who really do work that's more assigned, like healing work. I hate that word, is such a loaded word. The word healing is sort of tricky for me to say, but in the healing arts, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So there's as many ways to be a Kohenet as there are Kohenot in the world.
That's fantastic. It makes me think about how we believe that like culture is shared and advanced through the arts, and so this is, it sounds like it's continually evolving and changing to serve the needs of the community that they're serving.
I think it is, and it's also like so. We feel the ancestors around us very strongly as we dive into this work, because it feels like we're doing what it feels like ancient and brand new at the same time, because it's often described as pre-rabbinic Judaism by Rabbi Jill Hammer, one of our co-creators, because it is like we think of Judaism as starting with the rabbis and with, Midrash. But it really didn't. It started before that. And before that, there was Baalat Ov, which is like the shamanist, the witch. Mm-hmm. And there was, more plant-based medicine happening. And there was just things that might be more aligned with what's traditionally energetically feminine. Not identity feminine, but energetically feminine. More elements of intuition, working hard to bring in new rituals where maybe rituals don't exist at this point. Like maybe somebody's daughter is starting their period. There's no ritual in Judaism to hold that container, but call a Kohenet, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah. Or maybe just somebody's, leaving a marriage, and it's like, we need to have a ritual to honor that. Let's call a Kohenet. We're gonna where we live for that stuff. So we're out there on the front lines. We're out there fighting for human rights, and it's exciting to see. Even like I have my first bar mitzvah that I will be officiating coming up in a few months. And a bar mitzvah for a young boy who's like, no, I want a Realized Paradise style bar mitzvah. I don't want, so it's exciting to see. It's not just like, oh, this is this cadre of, AFAB women that we do this thing, this turfy thing. No. It's really an offering for the whole world, which I think, first of all, I want to share from my teacher of Pohala, Keone Hanale, which I 100% agree with, but I've been studying this with him so deeply, is that we are all 100% female and 100% male. 100% feminine and 100% masculine, all of us. And so when we incorporate that, then we have so much freedom. Mm. So why wouldn't a little boy be like, no, I'm into like having a little frame drumming and like this kind of thing happening, and like choosing the prayers with a consciousness, with melodies that feel grounded, and he wants to do it outdoors, connected to the earth. I'm just not saying his name to respect his privacy.
Of course.
And like also like I'm doing a birthing ritual coming up in 48 hours for someone else while I'm protecting their privacy. But like there's nothing like that in traditional Jewish life cycle, which we actually call life spiral sort of events or ceremonies, rituals, whatever you want to call it. There's some holes. Yeah. And we're happy to fill them in.
Well, I love that, because there's also, you also do that in your role as an artist. And I'm just thinking about how, as an artist, you've taken Passover. I know what's coming up. So the next poem relates to Passover and the song that we always sing, Dayenu, which I have a connection to because everyone then ends up saying Diana, and connecting it to my name for some reason. But really, it's a beautiful term, meaning enough. And you took the onus as an artist to kind of go deeper than just that melody. So will you share that piece with us?
It's my honor, and please expect me to be, now that I know that people, I'm sorry, probably it's not your favorite thing, but I love it. I probably will be singing that too now and then. So forgive me in advance. Yeah, so all to say, it's like there's a perfect thing to hook in here. I don't mean to sound like I'm anti-traditional Judaism. There are some people who are born to like tear down and destroy structures. Like, that's not my jam. I really love a lot about the existing structures that Judaism holds. I really love going to an Orthodox service. I'll sit on the other side of the mechitza and learn that way. It all really does it for me. And like, who knows what our DNA, like what part of us is like stark from our DNA and what part of us is wild from the ancestors that wanted to be chanting, doing ceremonies. But all of that lives inside me. And so it's really chutzpahdik of me to be like, oh, I'm going to rewrite Dayenu. Wow. I was like, will I get struck by lightning? Is that a thing in Judaism? I'm not sure what will happen, but I noticed that so much of Dayenu, which technically translates, I love this so much, it is enough, but it's a collective enough because of that new at the end. It's our enough, all of our enough. I just love this word. So much of it was thanking God, the infinite, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever word works for you, for, bringing down the plagues on the Egyptians. And I was just feeling like maybe, hopefully, we can get to that point where we can just be grateful for the good. We don't have to be like, thanks for hurting them. In a world that was ready for that and resonated for that. So I guess I was, taking my cue from Miriam and saying like, can we speak a world into existence where it's just about love, which is what I believe is what's ultimately wanted from us here in our existence. So this is my chutzpahdik. Who does she think she is? Dayenu. Had I been given but seconds in this unreal reality, and the 10,000 things not made themselves known to me, you, Dayenu. Had the 10,000 things made themselves known to me, you, and your my blood not thudded circuitously, stubbornly, Dayenu. Had your my blood thudded circuitously, stubbornly, and these atoms not stayed gathered into matter as me, you, Dayenu. Had these atoms stayed gathered into matter as me, you, and you, I, not been born earthly entity, Dayenu. Had I been born earthly entity and these lungs not breathed me, you, Dayenu. Had these lungs breathed me, you, and you, I, not strengthened from struggling, Dayenu. Had I strengthened from struggling, and the time-space web not caught me, you, Dayenu. Had the time-space web caught me, you, and you, I, not made manifest, believed in possibility, Dayenu. Had I made manifest, believed in possibility, and never felt faith inside me, you, Dayenu. Had I felt faith inside me, you, and not lost ego identity, Dayenu. Had I lost ego identity and not detached from a conceptually separate me, you, Dayenu. Had I detached from a conceptually separate me, you, and never found inner tranquility, Dayenu. Had I found inner tranquility and never let angel death tongue kiss me, you, Dayenu. Had I let angel death tongue kiss me, you, and not answered with reciprocity, Dayenu. Had I answered with reciprocity and still not vibrated energy for eternity, had I been given but seconds in this unreal reality, had it all been arbitrary, had it all been but a word, a breath, a blink, a touch, a grace, a pulse, a truth, Dayenu. Dayenu. Dayenu.
Dayenu.
Dayenu.
Beautiful. It's
Thank
such a
you.
powerful idea. Thank you for kind of breaking it open and building this. I just imagine like climbing this ladder, but not even needing to climb at the same time. It's gorgeous.
That would be like an answered prayer. I love that you had that experience hearing that poem. That sounds so perfect to me.
And I
Thank
love
you.
knowing that everyone with us right now, has their own um, imagery and their own sensations in different places of their bodies with what poetry can do. I mean, yeah, poetry runs deep.
Yeah,
So,
we're lucky. I talk about a lot like poetry, Torah, and dreams all speak the same language, which is the language of symbols, right? Which is really all language. Words are just symbols. I can talk and talk and talk. I could say apple a million times, and apple is never going to fall out of my mouth. So all of language, all of words are just symbols pointing to the thing.
mm-hmm.
But poetry and Torah and dreams really like crank it up even a little more. And I think what it is about poetry that is so beautiful when it's working right, when it's doing what it wants to do, what its intended job might be, it's trying to speak what is unspeakable, to give words to that which is ineffable in this world. And that attempt, knowing we'll never quite get it right because it's ineffable and we're just these bumbling humans in these bodies with the tools that we have. But that attempt is so sweet. And so that's what makes it somatic and makes it something that we can receive right into our body, even right into our head, but maybe bypassing the intellect that wants to do its work and letting it just do a different job for a while, or maybe even rest for a moment.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for speaking that in and speaking in our friends who are joining us from points all over, points unknown anywhere on this world, maybe from other planets. Who knows how good their Wi-Fi is on Mars? I don't know.
It's definitely a constellation for sure. So I know you've got for us one more piece to share, to once again invite us to step into the sea. So I believe this one's called A Prayer, Our Faithful Leap.
Yes. And so like we say leap of faith a lot, but like where does that come from? So I think that's kind of what gave me the impulse to reverse them so we hear it fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Because the leap of faith, it comes from stepping into the sea. Like that's where the idiom comes from. That's the leap of faith is, are you going to step into the sea that Miriam and Moses are like, yeah, it's going to part. God said it's going to part. Hop on in. And are we going to make it to the promised land? Not everybody who was Hebrew slaves made that choice. And some Egyptians came with us too and became Jews. So it's big. It's big to take that leap of faith. So yeah, and so, I mean, this is really what I want to bless everyone, our constellation of people from Earth to Pleiades to Sirius to all the places that all the star people may be tuning in from, this offering that even though we still find ourselves in these strange and different times, to notice and hold space for all the grief and also all the new opportunities to connect and be together that we're being offered, and to really take this leap of faith this year. Not to ever put ourselves in danger, but there's often opportunities to do something that feels risky, but we're actually, our physical self is safe, and to really embrace that. So maybe if you've always wanted to sing, but you're scared of singing, maybe this year you'll sing at your Seder. Or maybe if it's just really edgy for you even to speak, maybe you'll say something at your Seder, or maybe you'll say something. Maybe speaking out loud in Hebrew is really nerve-wracking for you. Maybe you'll try it at your Seder, or maybe you're not going to a Seder. Maybe you're not even Jewish and you're just here joining us, but still blessing you with this possibility of whatever a leap of faith means to you, and trusting that you are loved by a love that is beyond comprehension. And I hope that if that's what you leave with today, then that will be Dayenu. It will be more than enough. I hope your cup runneth over with that knowing. So this is our prayer for all of us, our faithful leap. Restore I, me, us, we, all of you, to our natural state. Remind I, me, us, we, that all we actually do is vibrate. Mystic atomic shifts, shiny shattered shards, peeling off klipot, sparks of willingness, beautiful bits of potential. Allow us to transcend these fleshly packages, these sweet and frail, beautiful body beings, which are no more and no less than slowed light. Right the wrongs inside us with your gentle correction. Let us be pliant and guided, spirits undivided, aligned with brightness, joy, and harmony. Permit our distinct uniqueness to slip into perfect union with one another. 7 billion crystals clicking into sacred mosaic, unmeted, unmelted, unmelded, undeniable in all their diversified glory, each piece definite and desperately necessary, falling like a lock full of tumblers, kissed by your key of divinity. Penetrate us. Press up against us where we need it. Hit the sweet spot with your sanctified kiss, your infinite soothing loveliness, your whisper wing of prettiness. Lure us to you, reel us in. Begin the holy reparation that will unfold if and only if we awaken. We stand before you, naked in your garden, staggering through parties. Behold our cracked open hearts. We return, orbiting back. Let the linear continuum of time-space reach its event horizon at long last. Let the past kiss the future in the hallowed present moment. Let us finally reach the finishing line of this human race. Let us step into grace and amazement as we curve in on ourselves, spiraling. Let us in. Let us say the magic word and let the unbroken circle of Tzimtzum enfold us. Hold us in your loving womb. Let the sacred feminine rise. Let Miriam clap her tambourine. Let us dance. Let us all join hands and evolve, revolving into spherical reality. Bring the revolution. Let us begin. Face to face, panim al panim, as we waltz through the sea of reeds, as we split open to receive our faithful leap, as we heliotrope into your radiance, as we sing unto thee in present tense. Let us all rise. Let us be worthy. Let it be time. Let the sparks fly. Let us make ourselves into vessels unbreakable, so that we may receive your everything. Let there be darkness, and let there be light.
Thank you
You're
so much
muted.
for that. Thank you so much. Yes, let there be light. Thank you for bringing us so much light this evening and letting us shine it into the dark places as we look forward to, Passover and beyond. Thank you so much for being here.
It is my joy. It is so fun to be with you. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for chatting with me about all the things about Pesach and about poetry and about priestessing, about what it means to have Dayenu, our enough, a cup runneth over, right? With so much love that it's spilling over so that we're sourced enough. I've even taken the word resourced out of my sort of personal lexicon. Even that feels a little extractive to me. Like sourced, so sourced that our cup runneth over, that we can share this love and divine flow. I have such respect and admiration for you and all that you are, dear Diana. I have to throw a little.
It's a joy to share your gifts with our community. I mean, there's so much to words. Words have so much strength and so much power, and we can use them, and you wield them beautifully. So I hope that you out there have been as inspired and illuminated as I have been by Rachel's incredible words, and I hope you'll explore more of her work. Also, a recording of today's event and our other past online events are available at arts.toh.org. So please feel free to rewatch this and share it with friends and family. And to hear more about our future programs, you can also visit the website and sign up for emails and follow Temple Israel of Hollywood on Instagram. We've got a lot more coming up, and I hope you'll join us again soon. Rachel, thank you for sharing your poetry and your time with us, and setting us up for a wonderful holiday ahead.
Oh, thank you. It is my great joy and my great pleasure. And thank you for asking me and inviting me to this sweet time to be with you across time and space and have such a rich conversation.
Well, I'm sure it's just another conversation of many. There's so much more that you have to share with folks. So hopefully, maybe when we come back together, we'll be able to dive even deeper into more of your work.
Amen. Yes, please.
So I also want to thank my tech team, Nima and James out there, and all of you tuning in and sharing your time with us. On behalf of TIOH Arts and Culture and Temple Israel of Hollywood, I want to offer you and yours warm wishes of care and comfort. And hopefully next year we'll be gathering at this time at TIOH, but definitely next month we'll see you virtually at home. Thank you.
Restore I, me, us, we, to our natural state. Remind I, me, us, we, that all we actually do is vibrate. Mystic atomic shifts, shiny, shattered shards, peeling off klipot, sparks of willingness, beautiful bits of potential. Allow us to transcend these fleshly packages, these sweet and frail, beautiful body beings which are no more and no less than slowed light.